Welcome to yet another episode of Applied Salesforce. This episode, micro project, uh, driving home the concepts around flows and how well we can handle the fault messages when the flow executes. Okay, that the exceptions, generally the flow exceptions. Okay, so in order to explain this, I've used this micro project, and this is developed for Question.com, a career transformer and an amplifier company. They wanted to streamline policies pertaining to opportunity pipeline. And in order to do that, they decided to declutter or cut the clutter by deleting all open opportunities. Okay, this is key because not every opportunity associated to a specific account that turned cold. That is when an account rating changes to cold. That's when I know the company, the Quotient.com, decided to delete all open opportunities, not the opportunities which are either closed won or closed lost. Okay, and all opportunities other than these two stages have to be cleared. Okay, so that's one requirement. And additionally, they also wanted to gracefully handle and log any exceptions that may occur when the flow executes. Okay, so this is the overall requirement. It's part of this micro project. And let's take a look at how this could be set up. Okay, the solution got to be declarative. Okay, and they're very particular about that. And what better choice than flows? Okay, so let's look at the setup part. And in order to log the fault messages and related details, what I have done is to build a custom object, created a custom object called flow exceptions. And now some of the key fields are the flow exception, that's going to be an auto number field, and then the exception date and time, that's a date and time field, and which essentially logs the current date time from the flow global variable. And next is the exception message. It's got to be a long text area and which logs the fault message global variable details that gets implicitly populated when an exception occurs, flow exception occurs. And then the username, the user who triggered the flow, which created an exception or which threw an exception. So the username is also logged along with the record name. So the API, the standard field API field name. Okay, so that also gets logged. So all these information gets logged into a custom object. And the second step is to create a tab for this custom object and surface it inside the apps. And the third step is to create the actual flow. Okay, so with that, I will also show you how this custom object looks. This is the API name of the custom object, flow underscore exception underscore C, and the set of fields as described, the exception date and time, exception message, flow exception auto number, record, and username. Okay, so with that information, with that background, let me switch over to create a flow. Okay, so click on new flows. I'm already in the flows screen and open the flow builder. And here I choose the auto launch flow and specifically the record triggered flow because the flow has to be invoked when an account's rating field is set to cold. Okay, so this is a perfect candidate for record triggered flow. Choose the free form, gives me the flexibility to place the elements um, wherever I want. And let me edit the start element, the trigger. The first, let me edit the trigger. And a record is updated. So when the flow should be triggered, trigger the flow when a record is created, a record is updated, a record is created and created or updated. Okay, so this is the natural choice. I go with this. And after the record is saved, yes, of course. So once my rating field is set to cold, and if it persists inside the DB, that's when I wanted to declutter the opportunities related to that specific account. Okay, not every opportunity in the system, but the opportunities associated to the account or related opportunities, right? Okay, and here the key thing to note is the dollar record global variable. Okay, so this essentially holds the record which has triggered the flow, which triggered this flow. Okay, so in our case, the dollar record global variable essentially holds the account which triggered this flow. Okay, so this becomes handy when you create elements inside your and for the querying of opportunities. And so yeah, so when you query these opportunities, you will definitely make use of this dollar record global variable to match with the account ID of an opportunity, okay, with the row ID of the account. So for that reason, you know, for that reason, I explained this dollar record global variable, and I will again revisit this when we configure the get records element. Okay, so this is going to be after the record is saved. Okay, click on done and choose this object, right? So the object is going to be count. That's what the flow gets triggered, when the flow gets triggered, and not for every account, right? So the account whose rating is set to cold. So rating equals cold. That's when you want to trigger it, and only when the record is updated to meet the condition requirements. Not every time. Click on done. And the next is to get the list of eligible opportunities, right? So when I say eligible opportunities, it's going to be all open opportunities associated to this account. So get record element and name it as get all let's say get all open opportunities, right? So that sounds good. And get all open opportunities. When it's open, it means opportunities no, other than opportunities um, other than closed one or closed lost. Right? That's how it is. And the object I'm trying to query is opportunity object. And do I need to retrieve all? No, I have specific condition. One is the opportunity should not be closed. That's the first condition, right? So let's add that criteria. Is closed equals false, right? So is closed equals false, straightforward. And second is it should be associated to the account, right? So how do you get this? So account ID of the opportunity should equal to the row ID of the account. So how do I get the row ID? The dollar record global variable, right? So dollar record global variable, and I look at account ID. That's the ID field. Okay, it's the ID field. Okay, and the condition is done. So am I looking at all the records, all eligible records? Yes, all eligible records. And choose the fields and assign variables advanced, right? So I wanted to how to store the record data. So I wanted to store that into a collection variable, right? All the opportunities that I retrieve should be pushed inside an opportunities collection variable. So let me create a new resource. That's how you create a variable, right? So variable, and API name is going to be object opportunities, and description flow collection variable to hold all open opportunities linked to the account, okay? Related or linked to the account. Data type is going to be record, and allow multiple values as I wanted more than one. I wanted to know it's a collection, so I need zero or more opportunity records, and it's going to be opportunity records, and available for input and available for output. It's irrelevant here. Not receiving anything outside from this flow or not pushing anything outside this flow, right? So you need not check either of these check boxes. Click on done, and here you could select when no records are returned, set the specific variable to null. So we are done with the get operation. So let me connect these elements. Okay, and next is the delete operation, right? So I have gotten all the opportunities records, and now I need to delete, right? So I have all these things in a collection, and if you take a look at this, I have stored an ID. So this collection, object opportunities collection, in case if it has opportunities records, only the ID field gets into this collection. I don't need any other field, because in order to delete opportunities, the field which can uniquely identify the records, it's the only uniquely identifying the records, it's the only field that is required as part of this collection. Okay, so I just have this ID alone, and there is no need to add extra fields, extra opportunity fields, okay, into this collection. Okay, and let's get to the delete element. So we'll put delete open opportunities. Let's say delete all open opportunities. I'd say, yeah, so this is pretty much it. Opportunities related to the count, to make it more explicit, and how to find the records to delete. So use the IDs stored in the record variable or record collection variable. So we have this collection variable containing all the eligible opportunity IDs to be deleted. IDs represent the records to be deleted. Okay, so let me tell the system, that the Flow engine, that this collection variable holds the IDs of the opportunity records to be deleted. Okay, and in case if this collection doesn't contain, or this collection is null, you get an exception. Okay, so that's what we're going to simulate. Done. So we are done with the delete records element. Okay, now this seems to be good and working, seems to work. So let's check this out. Let me first save the flow. Delete opportunities. Delete all open opportunities related to an account. Okay, save. Let me activate this. The flow is active. Now let's take a look at a record. Let me refresh it, and I'll try to simulate a good scenario. Let's say good scenario without any failure. So all I have is target corp as one of the counts, and I have an opportunity. Okay, the stage is not closed, right? Because it's other than closed won or closed loss. So this is an eligible opportunity. Okay, so this should not create a problem. It should not hit a snag when I let me change this to warm first. Okay, and then I change it back to cold. That is when the flow should trigger. Click on save, and it's a happy path. Your opportunity should be deleted, and I'll also look this at inside the recycle bin. Okay, that's how I would retrieve. So the opportunity is gone. There's no more opportunities, right? So let me revisit this recycle bin. Okay, and I will recover this opportunity. Okay, so I'm not going to recover it now. So I will show you the error scenario. Okay, so this is the opportunity that got deleted. Okay, so now this target comp doesn't have any eligible opportunity records. Okay, it doesn't have any. Okay, so if I create one, let's say I create one and make it as closed one, so that we can again test two different scenarios. Okay, so this is going to be target target part, say solar panels, 10,000. Okay, and stage, let's say closed, lost. Okay, so this is okay. So there's a validation rule to lost on competition. Okay, so this one, right? So this particular thing is not eligible, right? So when your get records element fires or gets tries to retrieve your opportunity records, so the closed last record is not part of the query, right? So it's because it's something which doesn't satisfy the criteria. Okay, we are only looking at open opportunities, but this one, the one of the opportunities associated is closed. Okay, so this will not get retrieved. So essentially, your collections opportunity collections variable is null. Okay, so this should also induce an exception. Okay, so let's try it out. So this is the rating is cold. Let me change it to different one and again change it back. Okay, this tongue, let's change it back to cold. Okay, it hits a snag as expected. Okay, so no records in Salesforce match your delete criteria. Okay, cool. So this is as expected. So let's revisit our flow. Okay, so essentially what happens is your flow variable, right? The flow collection variable, opportunity object opportunities is null, and your delete operation throws that exception because of this. Okay, so there could be two solutions to this. You could add an decision element, okay, and then you can verify if the collection is not null. Okay, the collection element is not null, the collection variable is not null, and then you take you connect it to the delete records. That's one way. Another way, right? So another way is to have a fault connector. So create a fault connector, and you can either email the specific IDs about this error, or log those errors inside an object, custom object. That's what we'll be looking at. Okay, so we have this custom object created, right? Flow exception custom object created with these values, and I've also created the tab, and it looks this way. Okay, so this is what you see. Okay, so this is the tab. So let me refresh it just to check if anything else is available. Okay, so there's nothing logged yet. Okay, so let me go back to the flow builder. Okay, let me add the create records element. Okay, create records. Okay, I'll put it here, create records. I'll say log um, exceptions. Um, Flow fault details. Okay, so log flow fault details. So this is essentially log flow exceptions. Okay, how many records? Just one exception at a time. And I say use separate resources. Okay, and the object is exception flow exception object. Okay, and need to populate these fields. Right, I have this set of fields here. Is it not? Set of fields: exception, date and time, exception, message, flow, exception, record, and username. So these fields have to be explicitly populated. Okay, so let me first populate the exception, date, and time, and I use the flows current date time. Click on add. The next would be message. I will use the fault uh, flow fault message. Let me check. It's API record system flow fault message, and the third is going to be record. Okay, that's the dollar record variable, right? So the accounts. So this dollar record is a global variable which log, which has the details around the record that triggered the flow. So this is going to be an account record which triggered this flow. So from this, I could get the name field, okay, the name field, and the last one would be the user, okay. The user who's currently logged in and whose action triggered this flow and the exception. It's going to be dollar user, right? So you have dollar user and the username. Okay, let's look at the username. Username, yeah, username. Okay, so these fields are populated. Click on done. Now the connector, right? I need to use the fault connector, not the regular one, right? So fault connector. So for that to happen twice, I need to drag these connections and delete the first connector. Okay. All right. Now it's all set, right? Okay. So now I save this as a new version and activate this. Okay. All right. So let's go back to the target corp, and I don't have the eligible record, right? So this record is closed lost. It means that it's not open anymore, right? So when I change this rating to cold, last time we encountered an exception, we encountered a snag, okay? And this time it should not happen because we have added the exception connector, the false connector, right? So let me also refresh this and show you that currently we don't have any exception messages logged here. Okay, so if our configuration is good, is valid, then you should see an exception message log, the false message log there. Okay, let me save this. Okay, this goes through, no issues. The transaction succeeded, and I look at this, the exception message. Okay, and let's check if the message gets logged. Cool. So you have this exception, the date and time, and the message, the record, okay, the record which triggered the flow, and the user, and logged in as this specific user. Okay, so this is what is expected from upquotient.com. If you take a look at the project, right? Um, they also wanted to gracefully handle and log the exception, right? So gracefully handle the transaction is not broken. Okay, transaction goes through, and you also get to log the exception. Okay, and that's it for this micro project. And thank you very much indeed for watching, and take care. Bye bye.